The moment my sister leaned toward me, just seconds before I walked into my own wedding ceremony, I thought she was going to fix my veil or whisper something supportive, or maybe even apologize for everything that had been tense between us over the last few months. But instead, she looked straight into my eyes with a coldness I had never seen and said, "You don't belong here." For a second, I actually forgot how to breathe. The music was already playing, guests were standing. The doors were about to open. And yet, all I could hear was the echo of those 4 words pounding inside my head like a warning I didn't understand. I remember gripping my bouquet so tightly that the flowers shook. I remember the wedding planner's voice behind me whispering, "It's time, it's time." And I remember looking at my sister, searching for some sign that she didn't mean what she said, some hint that it was a joke, a misunderstanding, anything. But she just stepped back, expression frozen, jaw clenched, eyes full of something I couldn't decipher, and then she turned pale. Not just pale, white, like every drop of color had drained out of her face all at once. One moment she was glaring at me. The next, she was trembling, and I hadn't even taken my first step down the aisle yet. I didn't know it then, but what she had just told me, what she believed about me, and what she was about to reveal, would change everything I thought I knew about myself and about my own family. Before we continue, take a moment to subscribe to the channel if you love emotional true stories like this. And tell me in the comments, what would you do if someone told you that you don't belong at your own wedding? Because trust me, what happened next was far worse than anything I could have imagined. I guess before I tell you what happened next, you need to understand who I am, and who my sister has always been in my life. My name is Emily. I'm the youngest of 2 daughters. And for as long as I can remember, my sister Lauren carried a quiet storm inside her, not the kind that explodes. The kind that builds slowly year after year, until one day you notice the sky was never actually clear. Growing up, she was the loud, confident, fiery one. I was the quiet kid, the easy one, as my parents liked to say, but easy didn't mean favored. It meant invisible. And in a strange way, maybe that invisibility was what made Lauren feel like she was always fighting for space. Our childhood looked normal on the outside. 2 sisters, 2 rooms, 2 personalities that clashed more often than they connected. But underneath, there was something brittle between us. It started small. If I got a good grade, she'd say it was luck. If someone complimented me, she rolled her eyes. If I achieved anything, she acted like it was somehow taken from her. Over time, I learned how to shrink so she wouldn't feel overshadowed. I tried to avoid conflict. I tried to be understanding. I tried to be her friend, even when she didn't make it easy. But the truth is, Lauren and I were never just sisters. We were rivals in a game neither of us understood. And yet, deep down, I kept hoping she'd soften someday. Maybe when we grew older, or more mature, or when we started building our own lives. But instead, everything got worse around the time I got engaged. At first, she pretended to be happy, smiling, asking questions. But the closer the wedding day came, the more distant she became, like every detail of my happiness was another wound to her. Sometimes she would stare at me with this strange expression, something between resentment and fear. I didn't understand it. I didn't know what she was hiding. I didn't know what she thought she knew about me. But now, looking back, there were signs everywhere. Signs I ignored because I never imagined she'd hold something so heavy inside her that it would lead to her telling me, on my wedding day, that I didn't belong. And if you think that was the worst part, it wasn't. Things were about to unravel in a way I never saw coming. The week leading up to the wedding was supposed to be magical. You know? Last-minute details, excitement in the air, families coming together, and all those little butterflies everyone talks about. But for me, it felt like walking through a hallway where every light flickered. At first, it was subtle. Lauren would make small comments, the kind that sound harmless if you don't know the history, but cut deep if you do. When the bridesmaids tried on their dresses, she pulled me aside and whispered, "Are you sure you want that color? It washes you out." When we went over the ceremony rehearsal, she muttered loud enough for me to hear, "Of course, Emily needs everything to be perfect." She always does. Every time I tried to talk to her, she brushed me off. Every time I looked for support, she looked away. It felt like living with a ghost, someone present, but not really there. The tension grew each day. At the rehearsal dinner, she barely spoke to me. Instead, she spent most of the night glaring at her phone or giving my fiancé these strange glances. Not flirty, not hostile, just confused. At one point, she turned to me and said, "I just hope you know what you're doing." There was something in her voice I had never heard before, fear, actual fear. And that scared me more than the words themselves. My mother noticed the shift too. She kept asking, "Is everything okay between you two?" But I didn't know how to answer. Because the truth was, no, nothing felt okay. It was like Lauren was carrying around a secret that grew heavier every day, and the closer we got to the wedding, the more it crushed her. Meanwhile, my emotions were all over the place. Excitement for the big day, anxiety over the tension, confusion over Lauren's behavior, and a quiet ache in my chest, whispering that something was wrong, terribly wrong. But with so much happening, decorations, final fittings, guest lists, schedules, I pushed the feeling aside. I told myself it was just stress, that weddings made everyone act weird, that Lauren would calm down on the day. I had no idea that she wasn't just stressed. She wasn't just jealous. She wasn't just overwhelmed. She was spiraling, holding something inside her that she believed would destroy me if I found out. And that secret was moments away from exploding. The morning of my wedding felt unreal, like I was floating just above my own life, watching everything happen in soft motion. The makeup artist was working on my face. My hairstylist pinned the last details into place. My bridesmaids were laughing, adjusting dresses, taking pictures. I should have felt complete. I should have felt whole. But there was this tightness in my chest, a silent warning I kept trying to ignore. Lauren was the last to arrive. When she walked into the bridal suite, the energy changed. No smile, no excitement. Just this blank expression that felt like a storm cloud entering the room. She didn't compliment my dress. She didn't hug me. She didn't say anything, just sat in the corner, staring at the floor, while everyone else tried to give me the perfect pre-ceremony moments. My maid of honor whispered, "Is she okay?" I didn't know how to answer. So I didn't. But I should have known right then. Something was building inside her, something that would soon break open. Then the coordinator knocked on the door. It's time. A wave of nerves hit me all at once. Everything I had dreamed of was on the other side of those doors. My future, my new family, my new life. The bridesmaids walked out one by one. My mother kissed my forehead. The music began playing softly from the hall. And then I stepped forward. I was exactly 2 steps from the entrance when I felt someone grab my wrist from behind. I turned, and there was Lauren. Her hand was trembling, her breathing uneven, her eyes filled with something I couldn't name. And before I could say a single word, she leaned in, her face cold and tight, and whispered, "You don't belong here." The hallway tilted. My heart dropped. For a second, the world blurred. "Why would you say that?" I whispered, barely holding myself up. But she didn't answer. She just stepped away like she couldn't stand being near me, and then, her face drained of color. She swayed slightly, gripping the wall as if gravity had suddenly changed. Guests inside were already standing, waiting for me to walk in. The music was swelling. Someone signaled that the doors were about to open. But all I could see was Lauren, shaking, pale, terrified of something she'd been holding inside far too long. I didn't know it yet, but in the next moments, everything I believed about myself, my family, and my place in that room was about to be ripped open. The doors opened. A soft wave of music spilled into the hallway, and every guest turned toward me with warm smiles and teary eyes. My heart should have been full. But instead, it felt like a cracked glass, holding together only because I was afraid to move. I took my first step down the aisle. I kept my posture steady, my bouquet firm in my hands, my smile gentle. But inside, everything felt off, twisted wrong, heavy. People whispered as I passed, but not the usual wedding whispers. These were confused, concerned, eyes shifting toward me, then toward the front row, and back again. And then I saw why. Lauren was sitting in the very first seat on the left, exactly where she was supposed to be. But she wasn't looking at me. She was staring straight ahead, her face ghost white, her hands shaking on her lap. Her chest rising and falling too fast. Her eyes wide and unfocused, like she was trying not to faint. I thought maybe she was sick. Maybe she didn't eat. Maybe the stress finally overwhelmed her. But then she turned her head, slowly, and locked eyes with me. Her expression wasn't jealous, wasn't angry, wasn't bitter. It was fear, real deep fear. Her lips parted slightly, like she wanted to say something, warn me, stop me. But nothing came out. My groom, Daniel, was already at the altar. He smiled the moment he saw me. That warm, safe smile that always made me feel steady. But even he noticed Lauren's strange behavior. He glanced between us, confused, eyebrows pulling together. And the closer I walked, the more wrong everything felt. The air felt heavier, my heart beat louder. Lauren stared sharper, almost pleading. By the time I reached the front, the entire room seemed to be holding its breath, as if everyone sensed something was about to unravel, but no one knew what. The officiant welcomed everyone. The ceremony began. Guests settled in, but I couldn't focus on the words. I couldn't hear the vows. I couldn't feel the moment. All I could feel was Lauren's gaze burning through me. This silent warning that screamed louder than any words she had ever spoken. Something was wrong. Something she thought I didn't know. Something she believed I wasn't supposed to find out. And, as the ceremony moved forward, she only grew paler, until it looked like she was barely holding on to consciousness. I should have stopped the ceremony. I should have asked her what was happening, but I didn't, because in that moment, I had no idea her secret was about to break my entire world open. We were halfway through the ceremony when everything shifted. It happened so fast that, at first, I thought I was imagining it. But then I saw several guests turning their heads, whispering, pointing subtly toward the first row. Lauren was no longer just pale. She looked like she had been drained of life completely. Her back was stiff against the chair. Her hands were gripping the edge of the seat so tightly her knuckles were white. Her eyes kept darting between me, the efficient, and my mom, who was sitting beside her with a worried expression that grew darker by the second. At one point, Lauren lifted her hand to her chest. Slow, trembling, like her heart was beating too fast or not fast enough. Her breathing became uneven. Her lips began to quiver. Then she closed her eyes, just for a moment, but long enough for me to feel the room tilt. The officiant was reading the vows. I was supposed to be fully present, but all I could see was Lauren's body, slowly leaning to the side, like she was about to faint. My mother touched her arm. Lauren jerked slightly, trying to force herself upright again, swallowing hard, as if she was fighting the urge to collapse. And then, her eyes opened wide. Not like someone regaining consciousness, but like someone who just realized a truth too big, too terrifying to keep inside any longer. Her gaze snapped to me, her lips parted. She mouthed something, just one word, but in the chaos of music and vows and murmurs, I couldn't hear it. It looked like, stop. That was the moment. The exact second I knew something was horribly wrong. The ceremony kept going, but I felt disconnected. Like I was no longer standing in my own wedding. The world turned into a blur of lights and voices. Lauren wasn't just feeling sick. She wasn't overwhelmed. She wasn't being dramatic. She was trying to hold in something heavy, something she didn't want to say, something she couldn't keep anymore, a secret she believed would break me. A truth she thought would ruin everything I was about to vow, everything I was about to build. And minutes later, when the ceremony finally ended, that truth would hit me with a force I never expected. But in that moment, watching my sister tremble, pale, and terrified, I felt something I couldn't name. A dread that curled inside my stomach. A sense that everything I thought I knew about my family and myself was about to fall apart. The ceremony ended, but for me, it felt like stepping out of a dream I wasn't fully awake in. Guests clapped. People cheered. The music played. Daniel squeezed my hands and kissed my forehead, whispering, "You did amazing." But I wasn't really there. Not mentally, not emotionally. While everyone moved toward the reception hall, I kept looking for Lauren, and every time I caught a glimpse of her, she looked worse. Not just pale. Not just shaken. She looked haunted. My mother walked beside her, holding her arm, whispering urgently, but Lauren didn't respond. She just stared ahead, blinking rapidly, as if trying to stop tears from falling. I knew something was coming. I could feel it. And when the coordinator announced that the wedding party should take a few minutes for photos, my mother walked up to me. Her expression was tight, serious, not the look a mother should have at her daughter's wedding. "Emily," she said softly, "can you step aside with me for a moment?" My heart dropped instantly. She led me into a small side room, away from the music, the guests, the laughter. I stood there, still in my wedding dress, hands trembling. "What's going on?" I whispered. She hesitated. And that hesitation alone was enough to make my stomach twist. "It's your sister," she finally said. "She needs to talk to you." "About what?" Mom looked down, squeezing her hands together. She said, "It's important." Something she should have told you sooner. My chest tightened. Before I could ask anything else, Lauren walked in, or rather, stumbled in, supported by my aunt. Her eyes were red. Her hair was slightly out of place. Her breathing was heavy. She looked like she had aged 10 years in 1 hour. The room fell silent as she stood in front of me. For a long moment, she couldn't speak. She just stared at me with this expression that was equal parts guilt, fear, and sorrow. Then her voice cracked as she whispered, "I never meant for today to be like this." I stayed quiet, frozen, afraid to breathe. She wiped her eyes and continued, "I didn't say you don't belong here because I hate you. Or because I didn't want you to get married." Her voice broke again. "I said it because something isn't right. Something you don't know. Something I found out yesterday." The room felt colder, smaller, heavier. My mom tried to calm her, but Lauren shook her head violently. "No." "She needs to know. I can't keep this to myself anymore." Tears spilled down her cheeks. And then she said the words that split me open. "I thought I was protecting you." Protecting me? From what? From who? I knew the truth was seconds away from coming out, the truth she believed could destroy me. And in that moment, standing there in my wedding dress, surrounded by people holding their breath, I felt the floor shift beneath me, because whatever she was about to confess, it wasn't small. It wasn't trivial. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was something that had shaken her to the core. And now it was about to change everything. Lauren wiped her face with shaking hands, but the tears kept coming. I'd never seen her like that before. Not angry, not jealous, not dramatic, just broken. She tried to speak twice, but her voice cracked. My mother gently touched her shoulder, urging her to breathe, but Lauren stepped away. "Emily," she whispered, "I found something yesterday." "Something about you." My pulse hammered in my ears. "About me?" I asked. "What do you mean?" She nodded, swallowing hard. "I shouldn't have seen it. I shouldn't have even been in the room." But Mom's phone was ringing, and she asked me to grab it from the kitchen. And when I picked it up, there was a message on the screen. A message? Lauren shut her eyes as if replaying it. It was from Dad. The moment she said Dad, the energy in the room shifted. My mom froze. My aunt looked away. Lauren's chin trembled. He wrote something awful, about you, about today. My breath caught. What did he say? Lauren looked directly into my eyes, her voice trembling. He said, "I don't know why I even have to go to this wedding. She's not my daughter." The room went silent. My heartbeat stopped. Thoughts scattered. It felt like someone had punched the air out of my lungs. My mind kept repeating the words, "She's not my daughter. She's not my daughter." "That's not true," I whispered. "He would never." But Lauren shook her head sharply. "It wasn't the only message," she said. "I scrolled because, I don't know, I panicked. And then I found all these old conversations, years worth. Dad talking about things I didn't understand." Her voice cracked again. "He said you weren't his. That Mom got pregnant before they were together. That he tried to accept you, but he never could." I felt my whole body go numb. My mom covered her mouth, tears falling silently. My aunt whispered, "Oh God." Lauren kept talking, like the truth was a dam breaking after decades. He said he didn't want to pretend anymore, that going to your wedding was, and I'm quoting, "celebrating a lie." A sound escaped my throat. something between a gasp and a sob. I felt dizzy, grabbing the edge of a chair to steady myself. Everything inside me cracked in places I didn't know could break. Lauren stepped closer. "I thought you knew," she cried. "I thought you must have found out at some point. I thought everyone knew except me. I didn't want you walking into that ceremony with this secret hanging over your head, I thought. I thought telling you would prepare you." Her voice trembled harder. "But when I saw the look on your face right before you walked in, I realized you had no idea." She wiped her eyes. "I shouldn't have said you didn't belong." I was projecting, because if Dad was telling the truth, then I didn't belong either. I wasn't the favorite. I wasn't the perfect one. And for the first time, I understood why I always felt like he kept me at a distance too. The room was suffocating. My entire life, my childhood, my identity, every memory, every moment with the man I called Dad, all suddenly felt hollow. I looked at my mother, the woman who raised me, protected me, loved me, and she was shaking her head, tears streaming. "Emily," she whispered, "I was going to tell you when the time was right." "When?" I choked out. "When? After I had kids? After he died? You were going to let me marry today without knowing who I am?" My mom collapsed into sobs. Lauren reached for me, but I stepped back. I wasn't angry at her, not truly. I could see the pain in her eyes. She thought she was protecting me from blindsiding heartbreak. But the truth itself was the heartbreak. My entire world, the foundation of who I was, fell shattered, scattered at my feet. "I thought," Lauren whispered, "that if I told you, maybe we could face it together." Her voice softened. "I didn't want you to feel alone, and that was what broke me, not the revelation, not the secret, not even the message from the man who raised me but never fully claimed me." What broke me was realizing that my sister, the girl I spent my whole life clashing with, was the only one brave enough to face the truth with me. She wasn't trying to ruin my wedding. She was trying to warn me of a lie that had poisoned her own heart for years, and now it was poisoning mine too. I don't know how long I stood there. Seconds, minutes, maybe a lifetime. It felt like the world around me had dissolved. The music, the laughter, the celebration, the clinking glasses, the people waiting for photos, the reception hall glowing with lights. All of it vanished. All I could hear was my own heartbeat. Loud, ragged, unsteady. I sank onto a chair because my legs couldn't hold me anymore. My mother tried to speak through her sobs. Lauren reached toward me with shaking hands. My aunt hovered anxiously. But I was somewhere else entirely. Somewhere deep inside myself, replaying every memory of my father, or the man I thought was my father, him teaching me to ride a bike, him bringing me hot chocolate after a bad day, him sitting in the audience at my school plays, him cheering when I got into college, him crying the day I told him I was engaged. Were those moments real, or performances? Were they love, or obligation? The questions tore at me, ripping pieces of my identity apart. "Emily," Lauren whispered, kneeling in front of me. "I'm so sorry. I should have told you differently. I don't know." I just panicked. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in our entire lives, I didn't see my rival. I didn't see my critic. I saw my sister, scared, hurting, trying so desperately to protect me with information that had been eating her alive since she read it. It wasn't your secret to carry. I finally managed, voice barely audible. It wasn't your burden. Lauren's tears fell harder. But I couldn't let you walk down that aisle thinking everything was perfect. Not when Dad, she stopped herself, covering her mouth. My mom reached for me, her voice shaking. Honey, please. Let me explain. Your father, your biological father, is complicated. It was before your dad and I were married. We thought it was better to wait until you were older, but time passed and I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to break you. I looked at her, and the pain in her eyes was real. But so was mine. You didn't break me, I whispered. The lie did. The room fell silent. Outside, I could hear the DJ calling guests to take their seats. People laughing at the bar. Children running past the hallway. Life was moving forward. While I was stuck in the remains of a truth I never asked for. Daniel appeared in the doorway, confused and worried. Emily? They said you needed a few minutes. Is everything okay? I opened my mouth but no sound came out. Because I didn't know how to tell the man I loved that the woman he married wasn't who she thought she was. I took a slow, trembling breath. And then I looked at the people around me, my mother, shaking, my aunt, silent. And Lauren, kneeling on the floor with red eyes and trembling hands. This was the moment I had to choose. Let the truth destroy me. Or face it. I straightened my back, wiped my tears, and forced myself to stand. I didn't feel strong. Not even close. But I felt something else, something small, quiet, and steady. I felt a resolve forming inside me. I looked directly at the camera of life, at my future ahead, and whispered to myself, I will not let this define me. Then I turned to Lauren and said, thank you for telling me, because even though the truth shattered my world, it was better than living in a lie. CTA suave para engagement. If you were in my place, what would you do? Tell me in the comments. I want to know how you'd handle a truth like this. I walked back toward the reception hall with slow, careful steps, not because of the dress, not because of the crowd, but because I felt like I was learning to walk again with a new truth inside me. The lights were warm. The music was soft. Guests were taking their seats, smiling, waiting for the celebration to begin. But nothing looked the same. Daniel gently wrapped his arm around me when I reached him. He whispered, whatever it is, we'll face it together. And for the first time since the revelation, I felt air enter my lungs fully. We did our first dance. It wasn't perfect. I cried through most of it. He held me tighter each time my voice broke. But it was real, raw, human, honest. A dance between two people choosing each other despite everything. Perhaps because of everything. Lauren watched from her seat, tears streaming down her face. When our eyes met, she mouthed, I'm sorry. And I nodded, because she wasn't my enemy. She never had been. She was just another daughter wounded by secrets that were never hers to carry, forced to live in a shadow of a truth she didn't understand. After the dance, I walked to her. She stood, shaking like she didn't deserve forgiveness. But I hugged her, tightly, fully, without reservation. Thank you, I whispered, for telling me the truth, even when it hurt. She sobbed into my shoulder, relieved, broken, healing all at once. My mother approached us too, tears in her eyes, apologizing again and again. And even though forgiveness will take time, the conversation finally began, not with shouting, not with blame, but with honesty, something we hadn't shared as a family in years. That night didn't go as planned. It wasn't the fairy tale I imagined. But in a strange way, it became something more meaningful, a beginning built on truth. And as I stood there, surrounded by people who hurt me and people who loved me, sometimes the same people, I felt something I didn't expect. I belonged. Not because of who raised me, not because of blood, not because of a last name, but because I chose to stand in my own truth, even when it shook the ground under my feet. Final message to the viewer. If you've ever felt like you didn't belong, if you've ever discovered a truth that broke you, if you've ever questioned who you are, you're allowed to rebuild, you're allowed to redefine yourself, and you're allowed to choose the people who walk beside you. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories reach more people who need them. Would you confront your family right away? Or wait until after the wedding? I want to know how you would handle a truth like this.